Wayne, you called in here after seeing your old mate Tojo Dixon, and he used to help you out with your training in the early days.
He'd hold my pads, and he was the only one that I could never move. I could never move with my kicks and punches, and it was the way that he would sort of go, you'd just go harder, harder, and then you'd blow yourself out, and then after that you just knew that he was going to beat the hell out of you with the pads. And it was so I always remember those. I just said in the thing, I laugh now about it, but back then it was a painful experience. But it was good. It conditioned us well for the times.
When you started fighting, was it in, where was Philip's gym then? Was it in Beach Road? Or?
No. When I first started fighting, it was in Albert Street. It was the old gym right up the top. You had to go right up the top, and it was so funny. It was so funny that my first time, my cousin and I had gone up to the top row, and he was going, "Oh man, come watch this. This is kung fu. This is the good stuff." And I said, "Nah," because back then I was sort of into karate. And I said, "Nah, mate." And then the Bruce Lee era came in, and now I was like, "Oh yeah, we better just check this out." So we went up to the top, and Sifu was there, and we just sat in the corner and we were watching. And there was Lolo and Greg Henderson, who used to be our lightweight fighter way back then, and they were sort of training. And then Albert and I were sitting there watching, and then Philip started doing a form. And then he took us over to the wooden dummy, and he started doing his wooden dummy form, and it was really impressive. But what made me go back was he said to Lolo and Greg, have a spar. Lolo, Greg, have a spar, and they put on headgear. They put on they had sand shoes on. They were wearing sand shoes, and they had those small gloves on. The small fingerless gloves. And they were just, and you could see that they were sparring. I said, wow, I hadn't seen this sort of full contact type of sparring, especially with headgear, because they were punching the head. With karate back then, it was no head contact at all. No. And it was so funny, and it was so funny because Sifu turned around and goes, "Oh, go a little bit harder, And Lolo said, "Oh no, it's all right, Sifu, it's all right." But then Greg said, "Oh, it's all right, mate. It's all right. We've got a headgear on." And then next minute, all Lolo did was he did a shuffle switch, left rounders, boom, hit Greg right in the face, in the side, knocked him down, and Lolo went down to grab him. And I just turned to my cousin and says, "Oh, I'm joining up. I'm joining up next week." And it was funny because I turned up on Monday and joined up, and from there, that was it. That was history. It was 3 weeks into, I started up in 3 weeks. I had my first fight in 3 weeks. He just asked me, "Oh, do you want to fight?" And so I said, yeah, I'll have a go. So into the YMCA, full contact, open division. So I would say it was the first sort of 8-man sort of tournament, because there was only 3 weight divisions. There was lightweight, middleweight, and heavyweight. And now the heavyweight was over 80 kilos, open weight. And so you had all these karate, taekwondo, jiu-jitsu, all these guys, boxers that just came in. And that was my first fight. I lost my first fight, but I was really angry at myself. So it made me train even harder. So all of a sudden, 3 weeks turned into 3 months, and next minute we're over in Hawaii with Lolo and fighting in the World Invitational Kung Fu tournament. So that was good, and I thought, oh, cool. It was like I'd go and fight as hard as I can. I had nothing to lose, only 3 months training, and I'd lose, and then I'd enjoy myself, enjoy Hawaii and all that. Man, I had to be in bed like 9 o'clock every day. I was the one that just kept going, having the fight and winning, and then keep going. Lolo, Yopu, all the guys, that come up against a really tough fighter. And then those guys were all out. They're all out enjoying themselves, and I was stuck. So it was funny because the first guy I fought was from Sweden, and he was like the Swedish champion, and he was like you know, when I won over him, I went and sort of, you know, had a chat with him, and we had a really good time chatting, hey, and it was like, you know, I asked him, oh, how long he'd been training, and he said to me, he told me 10 years, and then he asked me how long I'd been training, and I couldn't turn around and tell him 3 months, you know. So I said, oh, 3 years, 3 years, 3 years. So, you know, just I felt so bad. I really felt so bad. But that was a really good experience. And then from there, it just grew, and then, you know, from there, from Hawaii to Hong Kong to Australia, and then all of a sudden, you know, it was bring the ties to New Zealand, and from there it was like everyone sort of expanded, and yeah, it's been wonderful. And like New Zealand's been, you know, one of the top tier fighting nations around the world. So it's been wonderful.
What year did you finish fighting?
My last year was 1990. That was when I fought Kupanoi, and they used to, yeah, it was so hard case with the ties. You know, they had me training right up to the night before the fight, because they wanted to make sure I was underweight and all this sort of stuff. And I even sparred that. I trained that night, and they wanted to weigh me again in the morning, you know, before the fight. And what happened? I was in the gym, and this is when Sifu was in New Lynn, in the gym in New Lynn, and I'd finished training, and I was just sort of sitting there, and they didn't want me to eat, so it was like, I was going, oh no. But John Bing, one of the Thai fighters who won the King's Cup over in Thailand, he was staying with us in New Lynn, and he just said to me, you know, he'd cooked up some food, you know, it was vegetables, some rice and some chicken. And he said to me, oh, Wayne, come eat. And I said, oh, no, can't. And he said, oh, no eat, no fight. That's all he said. He said, no eat, no fight. And from there I just said, oh, yep. And I went in and I had some vegetables, a bit of chicken and a little bit of rice. And then that was it. And then the next day, I think they weighed me in the morning, and I hadn't lost any weight. And I think when I fought Kupanoi, I weighed in at 78 kg. And if I hadn't have eaten that, I probably would have had no energy for Kupanoi at all. But the first couple of rounds with Kupanoi were sort of really rusty. And it wasn't until I got a good sweat in the third round that things started to really come together. And yeah, and that was it. I caught him with a spinning back kick, and then finished him off with a left hook at the end there. So it was really nice.
And how did you branch out to training on your own?
I started coaching around 1986 over in Mangere Bridge, and I trained at the Manukau boxing gym under the late Jerry Preston, and he at that time used to train Jimmy Piao. You had quite a few national boxing champions in their time, and I think even David might have come through and did a little bit of training there, but it was mainly that was a period where Jimmy was the New Zealand heavyweight champion, and we used to train there, and it was, you know, used to go there and train boxing, and you can imagine the the conflict sometimes with the boxers and the kickboxers together. So, you know, so it was a good way of learning how to box, because you had to learn, especially when you're sparring with those guys. But it was really good experience, and the hardest case thing was when I was training, and Jerry yelled at me, Wayne. He goes, Wayne, do you want to have a round with Jimmy? And I said, oh yeah, I'll jump in. I jumped in, and Jimmy must have done like 10 3-minute rounds, you know, already. And so for us guys to go in, it would be like, okay, you just do 1 3-minute round, and Jerry goes to me, Wade, if you can knock him down, I'll give you a case, a case of beer, mate. And I said, oh yeah, I'll give it my best, Jerry. and we were boxing, with Jimmy, and we were boxing, and the next minute I threw something, and it actually hit him. It hit him, and all of a sudden, all I could see was this blood trickling down his nose, and I thought, oh no. I was going, oh no. And we carried on, and the next minute, out of the blue, that short right hand that he threw a short right hand, bang, and I just saw stars, and then all he did was just catch me. He caught me, held me up, and he said, Wayne, you all right? And I said, oh, I was a bit la-la, and then all I could hear was Jerry, Wayne, get out! And so I just sort of hobbled out of the ring, and then went back to training on the outside. But it was, some of the things that we got up to there, but that was where we used to train, because the boxers would train Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, so we trained Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays there. And we continued from there, and continued from there until I'd actually moved down to the South Island. And before I went to the South Island, we had a number of very strong fighters like Dyson Karesa and Afile Muasan. And it was funny because as soon as I was moving down to the South Island, and it was confirmed I was going to be moving down to Queenstown for work, and I took all the students to Balmoral. I took all the students at Balmoral, and I stood up in front of them with Lolo, and I told them all that to me Lolo was one of the best coaches in New Zealand, and that it'll be an honour for you guys to actually train with him. And they all went and trained with him after that, and then he just went from became a gym of champions, Balmoral Liga. So, and that's why every time I sort of come back to Auckland, I always try and catch up with Lolo, or when he's down in Christchurch, comes down, and we always seem to have a coaches meeting over a few ales. If we're not, our coaches meeting is usually a few beers and watching the fights, and then next minute it's stop, slow motion, did you see that? All that sort of stuff. So, but it's always been wonderful. Yeah, so.
You were in Queenstown originally, but you're in Christchurch now.
Yes, in Christchurch now, and what had happened, where I got myself involved with the Strike Force side of things, with Carl Weber and Aaron Boys. After the earthquake, where I was training, the whole building had collapsed, absolutely collapsed, and I was like, oh man, where are me and the boys going to train? And then next minute I caught up with Carl, and I said, Carl, would you mind, because I went and had a look at his gym and that sort of stuff, and it wasn't anything flash, it was just had mats and that sort of stuff, and just an area for guys to be able to train. So I asked Carl, do you mind if we come through and train with you? And I said, I can help out with all the striking, coaching and all that sort of stuff, and from there we can just grow together. And so Carl asked Aaron Boys, the head man for Strike Force at that time, and then and Aaron gave us the blessing, and so we sort of amalgamated. And we were going really well until Aaron and Carl had a little bit of a fallout. So then what ended, because at that stage we were sort of like Strike Force Liga, and everyone sort of thought, what the hell is that? Why are you guys Strike Force Liga when Strike Force and Liga have been two really strong gyms and they always competed against each other? How come the South Island sort of amalgamated? And for us it was only because it was one of the gyms that we felt that was good and we could train together, and there was, Christchurch was pretty broken back then. And from there, when Strike Force, Carl pulled away from Strike Force, so we ended up just making a team between Hayden Woolston, who ran Bodyworks BJJ, Carl, who his original style was universal valet tudo, and myself, which is Liga. And so all three of us became partners, and we started up Canterbury Fight Centre. So we still run our own clubs, and we still fight under our own clubs. But the CFC is something that sort of has bound us. So yeah, and from there, we've been able to produce some really good fighters. So
yeah, you had a good year this year. You made a few trips to Auckland, and especially King in the Ring time was a good time for you. Get the Quinella and that. That was pretty special.
Yeah, that was. It was absolutely amazing. And the most amazing thing about it was the luck of the draw. I couldn't believe it, because all of a sudden Nikora drew the first quarterfinal and Dom was in the last quarterfinal. So there was no way that they would meet. And if they ever did meet, it would have been in the final. And that was how wonderful it was. The thing, out of the two, they're both such strong fighters, but they're both totally different. And and what's great with them working together and training together is they feed off each other. I would have said that Nikora had definitely had the harder of the two build up, because he had to come up, he had to come up against Ben, who Ben had already beaten him before in a 4-man, or he would have had to come up against Joey, if he got past the first one. So, that would have been a very tough, semi-final to get through to the final. Dom, yeah, he had some different guys, but that Ali, his first fight, he was a really tough kid, and I really liked him. Lovely style. He got a big heart. He took some big shots from Dom, but yeah, he's going to go a long way. And it was interesting with the MMA with Logan. It was interesting with Logan because he had broken his hand against his first opponent, Nick Aratima, and that's really funny because, it's like Nikora broke his hand on Nick's head, and Sam Haggett, who's one of my 68 kg fighters, and he fought in the Born to Fight Chinese 4-man. He broke his hand on Nick Aratima's head. So Nick has got a very hard head. So from now on, I'll be telling them if they ever come up against Nick again, is do not hit him in the head. You go to the body. Just go to the body, because he's a tough boy. But the funny thing about it is, like, we sat down upstairs in the changing room with both Nikora and Dom, and we said, if you guys end up in the final, you're gonna split the purse 50-50. There's just no two ways about that. So, but you're gonna have to fight for the title, and the key thing is that you're fighting for that belt. It's a bit like state of origin and all this sort of stuff. But if you don't, everyone will know that you're mucking around out there, and it won't be good for Jason, as well as it won't be good for the sport. It's like, you guys have committed to go in there, and they were happy to do that, and that's what they did, and it was an amazing final. It was an amazing final. I was actually up in the stands with my son, who had come to watch it as well, so it worked out well. I spent some time with him watching the final, and Jason looked after Dom, and Matt and Nikora's dad, Mark, looked after Nikora, so it was really good.
Well, how do you top that? What do you do in 2019? Have you got plans for your team?
Well, yeah, we've got our big thing in the first quarter is actually going over to Thailand and competing in the Asian Games, and that's from the 8th of March to the 17th of March. So we're going to go and tag along with the WKA New Zealand team, and we're going to compete there. And then from there it's China versus New Zealand, and that's in Auckland on Sifu Lam's show. That's the 13th of April, and then from there it's, you know, if we perform very well in that show, then we'll get the opportunity to go over to Shantou, which is Sifu's hometown, and compete in a China versus the world type of thing over there. And for me, that would be just amazing to actually go back to where Sifu had come from, you know, his hometown. So that would be really wonderful.
Birthplace of New Zealand kickboxing.
Exactly, yeah. So yes. Yeah, other guys. Yeah, I mean, it's quite funny. I'm actually coaching and training up a few people that'll be fighting in the Motueka charity boxing event, and it's interesting that in that event, Reese Papuni will come out of retirement, so he's back in the fold with the light heavyweight scene. So it'll be really interesting in the boxing scene for a little while now. So yeah, there's been some good things happening in boxing, and but also some sad things have happened in it. But yeah, hopefully Reece will be able to show what he's always had, and continue through with it.
Hey, thanks very much for having the chat, Wayne. Really appreciate that. And you obviously, I'm going to say Happy New Year, and I know that 2019 is going to be fantastic for you.
Thank you very much, Tony. It's been a privilege sitting there having a chat with you and reminiscing a bit. It's wonderful. So thank you.